everyone. I am Adi Anisa. I am an MBBS student from Nepal Medical College, and in this video, I'll be talking with you about a very important tumor that is usually seen in case of child in the abdominal region, and I am talking about Wilms tumor. So Wilms tumor is very important because it is the most common malignant tumor. It is the most common malignant tumor. It is usually seen in kidney in a child. So it is the most common malignant tumor seen in kidney in a child. So Wilms tumor is the most common malignant tumor that is seen in the kidney of a child, and that has a peak incidence in 2 to 5 years of age. So the peak incidence is seen in 2 to 5 years of age, and the name suggests Wilms tumor, and it is called so because of a gene, and the gene is Wilms tumor gene. So this is a gene that is known as the Wilms tumor gene, and that is located in chromosome number 11. So there basically we have two variants of this gene. There is WT1 gene and WT2 gene. So both the genes are located in chromosome number 11 at the small arm, and but the locus of WT1 gene and the WT2 gene is different, right? But the mechanism of action of both the genes are similar, and basically these are tumor suppressor genes. And the due to the mutation in this WT gene, that will manifest with Wilms tumor, and that it becomes the most common malignant tumor that is seen in a kidney of a child, and it should be a very important discussion right now. So what happens is that when also let me talk about Wilms tumor gene in a bit, and then you will understand the pathogenesis that will go under the heading of Wilms tumor. So WT, as I said, WT gene, let us consider this is a chromosome number 11, and in the chromosome number 11 we have a gene, and this gene in the short arm of chromosome number 11, it is known as WT gene. Let us take an example of WT1 gene, right? So W1T1 gene, as I said, it is a tumor suppressor gene, and this tumor suppressor gene, it will result into formation of a product, and this protein will lead to activation of other genes. So it will activate other genes, and these other genes are responsible for the proper differentiation. So it is responsible for proper differentiation, right? And because of this differentiation, it will result into maturation of the kidney. So it will result into maturation of the kidney, right? So if there is defect in WT1 gene, so there will not be any differentiation of the kidney components, and as a result of which there will be it will interfere with the maturation of the kidney, and that will manifest with Wilms tumor gene. So what I am talking about is that we should know that the development of kidney, so the development of kidney occurs from intermediate mesoderm. So intermediate mesoderm. So the development of kidney occurs from the intermediate mesoderm. So let's just consider this an ectoderm, and this is our notochord. So this is our notochord, and just at the site we consider it has a paraxial. This is our paraxial mesoderm, and this is intermediate mesoderm, and this is our lateral ped mesoderm. So this is our paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, and lateral ped mesoderm. So and this is our endoderm, right? So the kidney will develop from this intermediate mesoderm. So the development of kidney will occur from the intermediate mesoderm. So basically I'm trying to tell is that the development of kidney occurs from mesoderm, and this mesoderm will differentiate, into epithelial component, and this epithelial component give rise to the tubules of the kidney, right? It will give rise to the tubules of the kidney. So if we see the histology of the normal kidney, we can appreciate glomerulus and the tubules, and this glomerulus and the tubules are actually the epithelial component which are derived from the mesenchyme, and this mesenchyme is actually your intermediate mesoderm that I'm just trying to tell. So for the development of the kidney, there should be differentiation of this mesoderm into the epithelium. So there should be differentiation of this mesoderm into the epithelium, and that is mediated by a gene that is known as Wilms tumor gene. And if there will be absence of this gene, if there will be absence of this gene, and this gene is a tumor suppressor gene, and that will activate certain differentiation factors, and this differentiation factor will help in differentiation of the mesodermal component into the epithelial component, and because of this that will help in the development of the kidney and proper maturation of the kidney. So if there is defect in this gene, if there is defect in Wilms tumor gene, then what happens is that if there is defect in the Wilms tumor gene, then that will result into improper differentiation of the kidney, and because of which the mesenchymal component of the kidney cannot be totally differentiated into the epithelial component, and because of this it will manifest with Wilms tumor. And in the Wilms tumor, we basically, in the histology of Wilms tumor, we see three components. We see an immature component, an immature component, and we also see another component that is our mesenchymal component, and the other component that is our epithelial component. right? Now we can understand Wilms tumor has three component in the histology. It has a immature component, and this immature cell are small round blue cells. So small round blue cells. Along with that, we can see the mesenchymal component in the form of stroma, and we can see the epithelial component in the form of abnormal tubules or abortive tubules. Abortive tubules. Okay? So this is as we can see three different component in the histology of Wilms tumor, and hence Wilms tumor is also called as triphasic triphasic blastema. So Wilms tumor is also called as the histological pattern in Wilms tumor is also called as triphasic blastema. So I think now we are totally clear about the pathogenesis about the Wilms tumor. So now let us discuss what actually how do a person gets Wilms tumor? How does a child begets Wilms tumor? So basically we can get Wilms tumor via sporadic mutation. So sporadic, it can be sporadic mutation, or else it can be associated with certain familial syndromes. So it can be associated with familial syndrome. So whenever I'll be talking about sporadic mutations and that result in the sporadic cases of Wilms tumor, it is usually 90% of the cases. So 90% cases of Wilms tumor that actually happens in child are due to sporadic causes, and 10% of the cases are developing from the familial syndromes, right? So whenever I'm talking about familial syndrome, I would be talking about three basic types of syndrome, and they are, one of them is Wagner syndrome. Wagner syndrome. The next one is Danish-Drass syndrome. Danish-Drass syndrome, and the next one is Beckwith Weidmann syndrome. So as I said, Wilms tumor can be a sporadic mutation, and it can be a familial variant of a cancer. So whenever we will discuss about familial variants, it is although less common, and it can be associated with three syndromes, and one of them is Wagner syndrome. The next one is Danish-Drass syndrome, and the third one is Beckwith-Weidmann syndrome. So we'll be discussing about each syndrome in a bit. So let us see what a Wilms tumor is. Wilms tumor is also known as nephroblastoma, and it is the most common primary malignant tumor of the kidney in child. And basically, it will occur in the age of 2 to 5 years of age. And usually, it can be familiar or it can be sporadic, that I have already been discussing. And usually, the sporadic variant is more common as compared to familial variants. So, sorry, it has been written wrong here. It is basically 90% sporadic cases and 10% are familial cases, and 95% of these tumor occur before the age of 10 years. So as I've said, the peak age of incidence is 2 to 5 years of age. So this is Wilms tumor, and roughly 5 to 10% of the cases of Wilms tumor will involve the both kidney, and the involvement of the both kidney can be simultaneously, and this is known as synchronous involvement, or it can be one after another, and that condition is known as metachronous involvement, one after another. And so usually when I said Wilms tumor, I talked about histology by discussing about the WT1 gene. So as I've discussed in the last slide, so it contains, as I've said, it is also known as triphasic blastema because it is due to improper differentiation, and because of this we can find three different components in the kidney, and we can find all the derivatives are derived from mesoderm, and hence this form of differentiation is known as divergent differentiation. It is known as divergent differentiation. Okay, so it contains a variety of cell in the and the tissue component that is derived from mesoderm. As I've already said, we can see three basic type of component, and that will be seen in the histology later on in this video as well. So let us discuss about the, as I said, the pathogenesis of Wilms tumor. As I said, it consists of WT1 gene and WT2 gene. Both the genes are located in chromosome number 11, especially the short arm of chromosome number 11. But the loci or the location of these genes is different in the same chromosome, right? And because of this, we've associated this genes separately. So as I said, it can be sporadic or it can be familial. So let us talk about the different familial conditions. As I said, one of them is Wagner syndrome. The next one is Danish-Drass syndrome, and the third one, it is not mentioned here, but it is known as Beckwith-Weidmann syndrome. So Beckwith-Weidmann syndrome, right? So in Wagner syndrome and in Danish-Drass syndrome, in both of these conditions, we associate mutation in case of WT1 gene, whereas in Beckwith-Weidmann syndrome, we associate with mutation in WT2 gene. Right? So let us discuss about Wagner syndrome in a bit, and then we'll be discussing about other syndrome as of also. And it is very important to know about Wilms tumor because we get a lot of questions regarding Wilms tumor in MCQs and in our short questions and even in PG exam as well. So let us talk about Wagner syndrome. So WAGR. So Wagner syndrome, it is so as I said, it is a syndrome. So it will have multiple component, not just Wilms tumor. So it will have multiple component, and it is the point of interest to know that there will be mutation in WT1 gene as expected, and there will be as the name suggests Wagner. So W stands for Wilms tumor. So W stands for Wilms tumor. A stands for aniridia. So there is absence of iris, aniridia, and G stand for genital abnormalities. So genital abnormalities, and R stand for retardation, especially mental retardation. So Wagner syndrome, WAGR, W stands for Wilms tumor, A stands for aniridia, G stands for genital malformation or anomalies, and R stands for mental retardation. So as I said, we see the mutation in WT1 gene, and basically it is a syndrome, so it will have multiple features, but it is not sure to have all those features in this syndrome. So it is not sure, sir, that you will get all the feature, but you can get combination of one or two of these, and that will manifest as a syndrome that is known as Wagner syndrome, and that happens due to mutation in WT1 gene. Right? And it is a point of interest to know that Wagner syndrome in patients with Wagner syndrome, or in people with Wagner syndrome, only 1/3 of patients or people who are inheriting this form of mutation in case of the Wagner syndrome, only 1/3 of the patient will develop Wilms tumor. So it is only 1/3 of patient that will develop Wilms tumor, right? So let us discuss Wagner syndrome. As the name indicates, W stands for Wilms tumor, A stands for aniridia, G stands for genital abnormalities, and M stands for R stands for mental retardation. And it is a point to know that only 1/3 of the cases in Wagner syndrome will develop Wilms tumor, as I've already said. So only it is the 33% chance to get Wilms tumor. So let us talk about the next syndrome, and that syndrome is known as Dennis-Drass syndrome. So the next syndrome is known as DDS, or also known as Dennis-Drass syndrome. So as I have already said, in Dennis-Drass syndrome, also there will be mutation in WT1 gene, and that is located in chromosome number 11, as it is. I have already discussed about that. And in Dennis-Drass syndrome, what happens is that, so it is also a syndrome, so it will have multiple features. So one of those features is that the patients will be having Wilms tumor. So Wilms tumor, and it is the point to know that approximately 90% of the patient who are having this syndrome, that is Dennis-Drass syndrome, they will be getting Wilms tumor. So it is 90% in case of Dennis-Drass syndrome, whereas it was only 33% in case of Wagner syndrome. So 90% will get Wilms tumor in if they inherit a gene defect, and that is known as Dennis-Drass syndrome. That's a syndrome. So it will have more feature as compared to not just, it will not just have Wilms tumor, it will also have other features. And what are the other features that we'll be getting in Dennis-Drass syndrome is that we will be getting gonadal dysgenesis. So gonadal dysgenesis, and gonadal dysgenesis will occur in form of gonadoblastoma. So it can, a patient may have gonadoblastoma. Not just that, they can also have due to improper development of the gonads, that will manifest with pseudo hermaphroditism. So the patient can manifest with gonadoblastoma or pseudohermaphroditism. And not just that, it can be also associated with early onset nephropathy. So early onset nephropathy. So it all started with mutation in WT1 gene, which is located in chromosome number 11, and the patient will be having a syndrome that is known as Dennis-Drass syndrome. And because of this syndrome, there is 90% chance that the patient will will be having Wilms tumor. Along with that, there can be gonadal abnormalities and also early onset nephropathy, and hence Dennis-Drass syndrome is dangerous. And so you can remember by this that the name has DDS. So D means dangerous, D means dysgenesis, and dysgenesis of the gonad. So it is characterized by gonadal dysgenesis, and that will manifest with pseudohermaphroditism, especially male pseudohermaphroditism, and also early onset nephropathy I have already discussed. And also, as I've discussed, 90% of the patient will be having Wilms tumor if they have Dennis-Drass syndrome. So as I've already said, in case of Wagner syndrome, or in case of Dennis-Drass syndrome, there will be mutation in the WT1 gene, and that is located in the chromosome number 11. So in case of Wagner syndrome, there is deletion of the WT1 gene. So it is a tumor suppressor gene. So tumor suppressor gene should be deleted, and there is loss of function of the mutation. And one of the modes of pattern of inheritance of loss of function mutation is the deletion of a gene, or there can be a negative inactivation of a gene that can be seen in Dennis-Drass syndrome, and that will manifest with the feature that I've already discussed in our last slide. And the third familial condition that we associate with Wilms tumor is Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. So Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. So let us discuss some point about Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome. So so in this the difference is that there will be mutation in WT2 gene. So it can be asked in MCQ. The gene that is defect in is WT2 gene, and this gene is also located in chromosome number 11. But the location of this gene is very entirely different from that in case of WT1 gene. So it is located in the band. It is, as I've already said, it is located in the 11th chromosome, especially the short arm of 11 chromosome. In the short arm 15.5 band of the chromosome number 11. So the loci is entirely different, and it is and very close to this loci we also associate on another gene, and that gene is known as insulin like growth factor 2 gene. So IGF2 gene, it is a growth factor gene, also the proto-oncogene, and the mutation occur in a way that there will be loss of function in this WT2 gene, and there will be gain of function in the transforming growth factor 2 gene. So and it occurs due to defect in the genomic imprinting. So genomic imprinting defect happens in this disease, and this patient will manifest with a defect in WT2 gene and the gain of function in insulin like growth factor 2 gene. And because of this WT2 gene defect, that will manifest with Wilms tumor. And if there is a defect in insulin like growth factor 2 gene, it will manifest with a proliferation in the cells of different sites, and that will manifest with cytomegaly. So cytomegaly will happen because of this increased amount of growth factor. So and this cytomegaly will result into organomegaly. So organomegaly, and this happens in different organs, and that can result into involvement of tongue, and that will result into macroglossia. So macroglossia. Not just that, there can be involvement of half side of the body, and the half side of the body will hypertrophy, and that is known as hemihypertrophy. And it can also result into adrenal cortex cytomegaly. It can also result into adrenal cortex cytomegaly. So as I've discussed all the three familial syndromes, and in all those three familial syndromes, there has been specific mutation. In first two, as I've discussed, there was a mutation in WT1 gene, and the pattern of inheritance of the loss of function mutation was different. And in the third case, that is Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, as I've already discussed, there is a defect in WT2 gene. Along with that, in very close loci to this gene, there is located a location of insulin like growth factor second gene. And because of this, because of this growth factor, it will result into cytomegaly and organomegaly of different organs, and that will manifest with macroglossia, hemihypertrophy, and adrenal cortex cytomegaly. So Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, it has increased risk of developing Wilms tumor, and the WT2 locus is also involving insulin like growth factor 2 gene. And because of this involve of growth factor, the increased activity of this growth factor result into enlargement of different body organs, and that will manifest with organomegaly, and that will result into macroglossia, hemihypertrophy, and adrenal cortex cytomegaly as well. So we have discussed all the familial conditions. So, and this will manifest with Wilms tumor. And because of the this Wilms tumor, so now we should see about the morphological features that we see in Wilms tumor. So as I've already said, it can occur as a sporadic variant, or it can be a familial variant, and I've discussed all three familial variants in this video. And especially in case of sporadic variants, there will be mutation in WT gene, but in addition to WT gene mutation, there will be additional mutation, and especially the additional mutation will involve beta catenin gene, and it may also involve P53 gene as well. So beta catenin and P53 gene mutation may happen alongside WT gene mutation in case of Wilms tumor that is sporadic. Okay? So let us talk about morphology and how the kidney will look in case of child if this happens. So as I've already said, how this. So let me revise again. So if there is defect in WT gene, there will be absence of differentiation factor. So this differentiation, as there will be absence of differentiation factor, so this will result into improper differentiation or irregular differentiation, as a result of which the mesodermal component from the metanephric blastema will not be converted into the epithelial component, or it will not be completely converted into epithelial component, and this will manifest with improper differentiation and improper growth of the kidney, and that will manifest with a large solitary well circumscribed mass, and that is usually unilateral, but in 10% cases it can be bilateral. And as I've already said, in case of bilateral involvement, it can be synchronous or it can be metachronous. So it can be synchronous and metachronous as well. And whenever we do a cut section of this tumor, we can see soft homogeneous tan to gray color with occasional foci of hemorrhage and cystic degeneration along with necrosis. And usually it is a very mild tumor, and it will not have a area of degeneration with hemorrhage and necrosis. But rarely, if it is very severe enough, then it can result with additional mutation. It can result into hemorrhage and necrosis as well with cystic degeneration. So we can see this area of Wilms tumor. So we can see this foci, and especially it is appreciated in the lower pole of this kidney, and we can appreciate the color. It is tan to gray color in appearance. See, this is the normal appearance of this well differentiated kidney, and this is improperly differentiated kidney, and the color has been changed, and it is slightly tan in color, and it is a well circumscribed mass, and we cannot appreciate any hemorrhage or necrosis in this diagram. But if the disease is very severe enough, then we can even appreciate area of hemorrhage and necrosis. Let us now discuss about the microscopy on Wilms tumor. As I've already discussed, due to improper differentiation, the mesenchymal component cannot be completely differentiated into the epithelial component. Hence, there will be persistence of three different histological appearance, and that will be our blastemal component, and that can be our mesenchymal component, and that can be our epithelial component. So we can appreciate three different structures. Hence, it is known as triphasic blastema. So the blastemal component consists of our small round blue cells, and these are whenever we talk about small round blue cells. So let me write about small round blue cells. So we can appreciate this cell like this. So it is usually a cell, right? So this is a margin of a cell, and it has a very large appearing nucleus, and with very high degree of anaplasia. And this type of cell is known as small round blue cell, and we associate it, and it is very similar to lymphocyte that we see. It is very similar to lymphocyte, and we can appreciate this type of cell in various other cancer as well. And they are basically, we can appreciate this cancer, and those cancer are usually cancer of childhood, like retinoblastoma, nephroblastoma, neuroblastoma, and also even we can see that in case of medulloblastoma. So and by this we know that this small round blue cell are immature cells. So they are immature cells. Hence, even in case of nephroblastoma, we can appreciate such cells. So it is not very pathognomic for nephroblastoma. So basically, my motto of saying this was we can appreciate small round blue cell in many other tumors where there has not been proper differentiation, or there has not been proper growth of the cell or proper maturation of the cell, and we can appreciate small round blue cell in case of retinoblastoma, nephroblastoma, neuroblastoma, even medulloblastoma. So if we appreciate the microscopy feature, as I've already discussed, we can see different stages of nephrogenesis, and hence that is known as triphasic combination. We can see a blastemal component along with stromal or mesenchymal component, and we can also appreciate the epithelial component. So we can see here, we can appreciate three different components. As I've said, we can let me change the color. So we can appreciate three different components. One of them is our epithelial component, and we can see this is our epithelial component, and it is in the form of abortive tubules or malformed tubule. We can see this tubule, and it is lined with very anaplastic cells. See, this is also one tubule, and it is lined with very anaplastic cells. So we can see anaplasia means high NC ratio. We can appreciate abnormal mitosis if we see in high power magnification as well, and we can also see one more tubule. We go one more tubule. So this abortive tubule, or these are malformed tubules, that can be appreciated in the histology of Wilms tumor can be appreciated. They are component of epithelial component. Also, we can appreciate this component. See, this is the mesenchymal or stromal component. So this is our stromal component, and along with that, we can appreciate all these cells. See, all these cells, we can appreciate this cell here. So they are all very dark blue in color, and these are small round blue cells. So these are our small round blue cells with very high degree of anaplasia, and these are immature cells. I hope you understand the basic means how this disease developed, and how we can appreciate, and why do we appreciate all these three components. Because as I've already discussed, it is due to WT gene mutation, and that results into improper or lack of differentiation and lack of maturation of the renal cells. And this will manifest with three components, that is blastemal component, epithelial component, and the stromal component. So as I've already said, the blastemal component consists of seeds of small round blue cells. Epithelial component consists of abortive tubules or glomeruli, and the stromal cell consists of fibroid or myxoid stroma. Along with sometimes it can consist of skeletal muscles, and this can be present. And as they are all derived from one germ layer, and that is the mesoderm, hence this is known as divergent differentiation. So many people can get confused this with a teratoma. So it is not a teratoma, because all this structure, the small round blue cell, be it the abortive tubules, or be it the fibrotic or myxoid or the skeletal muscle, they are all derived from the mesenchyme, and this is all because of divergent differentiation. So divergent differentiation, right? So don't confuse it with teratoma. So these are all heterologous elements that we can appreciate, right? As I've already said, and in nearly 5% of tumors consist of foci of anaplasia, and if there is and higher the grade of anaplasia, we can the tumor has the even worse prognosis. So if a tumor has high degree of anaplasia, it's a tumor will be having a very worse prognosis. And anaplasia usually coincide with p53 mutation. So as I've already said, the patient may have p53 mutation, and if the patient develop p53 mutation, then this will manifest with anaplasia, and if the patient has anaplasia, the patient will have worse prognosis. uh, so and as I've already said, we can also it can be sporadic variant, or it can be familial variants. And in familial variants, we can identify a pre-malignant condition or pre-cancerous condition. And the pre-cancerous condition of Wilms tumor is known as nephrogenic rest. And if we see nephrogenic rest in the histological, if we see nephrogenic rest in the histology of renal biopsy, then we must be assured that the Wilms tumor can be developed, and it can be developed in the same kidney, or it can also develop in the contralateral kidney as well. So if we appreciate nephrogenic rest in the histology, then it means that we will be developing Wilms tumor in that child, and that can happen in the same kidney, or in the both kidneys, or it can be appreciated in bilaterally, and it can be happen in the contralateral kidney as well. So basic means of saying is that nephrogenic rest, it can be asked in the MCQ, and it is the precursor lesion of Wilms tumor. And if it is present in even if one kidney, then we can then it is sure that there is very high risk of developing of Wilms tumor in the contralateral kidney as well. So with this, we have already completed about the Wilms tumor, and we can appreciate it here. So this is our epithelial component. So these are our stromal components. See, these are stromal component. This is our stromal component, and these are epithelial component. Along the see, this is malformed tubules, and we can appreciate all these cells. These are our all small round blue cell in the form of seeds. See, these are a small round blue cell in the form of seed. And in this diagram, we can appreciate abnormal mitosis. Abnormal mitosis can be appreciated in this diagram. Along with see this, these are our stromal component, small round blue cells, and these are anaplastic cells as well. So by this, we have already completed the Wilms tumor. So let us say about the pathological part of the Wilms tumor. So how does the child will present with a Wilms tumor? So as I've already said, it will be a child whose age is usually 2 to 6 years of age, and this is the peak incidence, because more than 90% of cases will occur in age less than 10 years. And there will be a triad of features, and this triad of feature is the hallmark for Wilms tumor. So what can we appreciate is that we can appreciate an abnormal mass. So abnormal mass, especially in the abdomen, with enlarged abdomen, and this is the earliest feature to appear. This abnormal mass in the abdomen is the earliest sign to appear. Along with that, the child will develop fever, and along with that, the child will develop hematuria. And with these symptoms, basically the child will be presenting to your ward, and then you should diagnose it with Wilms tumor. And the confirmation and the investigation of choice is MRI, because you do not want to perform biopsy in a child unless you are sure that you are very sure that that is a tumor. So the investigation of choice here is MRI. So MRI is the investigation of choice. And if you diagnose by MRI the presence of a tumor, then you can perform a biopsy, and even then you can perform the radiological you can also do surgical excision of the tumor, and the prognosis is very good after that. So you should remember regarding the clinical course of the disease, you should remember this triad of feature that you appreciate in case of Wilms tumor. You should know the MRI is the investigation of choice, and you should know it occurs in the age of 2 to 6 years. And if the metastasis happens in this form of disease, then the most common site of metastasis is lungs. So lungs becomes the most common site of metastasis in case of Wilms tumor, and that is also point of interest. And these are very high yields that I am discussing with you. So if you appreciate a retroperitoneal mass, so retroperitoneal mass, and along with mass, you can appreciate fever with hematuria, then you should be diagnosing, you should be one of your differential diagnosis should be Wilms tumor. So, but it is the point to remember that not every retroperitoneal mass is a Wilms tumor. So because if there is a retroperitoneal mass, it can also be a pheochromocytoma as well, or even neuroblastoma. So it can be a neuroblastoma or a pheochromocytoma of the adrenal gland. This is basically the same thing. And whenever there is a pheochromocytoma, the most common site of metastasis becomes the bone. And it's the point to remember is that Wilms tumor metastasizes to the lungs more commonly. And this is all about Wilms tumor. Every aspect has been covered regarding the pathology with some clinical correlates and the clinical feature as well. I hope you understand. Thank you very much for your patient listening.